My name is Philip Harrelson, and I would like to welcome you back again to the Barnabas study. And I am going to talk about some books and just kind of make some references of some books here to you that specifically are related to the matter of holiness. And all of these books that I'm going to talk to you about here in the next few minutes, they are written by apostolic authors. And so we'll just kind of move into these, and I will tell you where that you can purchase these books from. I think they're worthy additions, certainly to every one of your libraries. And first book I would like to talk about was a book that if you are in the United Pentecostal Church, or even in the WPF, or even independently apostolic, most of you are probably aware of this book, and it's simply entitled In Search of Holiness. Now obviously you can tell that this is a very old and dated copy that I have, and in fact I can remember whenever this book came out. It came out whenever I was in the 9th grade, whenever I was in high school. It was in 1981. And Brother Patterson had gone to General Conference and had purchased it in that fall of 1981. And when he came home, it was not very long afterwards where that he took this book and he taught through this book in our Wednesday night Bible studies back in 1982. Probably would have been in the spring, maybe summer of 82 whenever he started teaching that. And my parents at the time, they purchased a copy of that book, so I can remember that book being a book around our house. And then whenever I went to Texas Bible College and enrolled in the fall of 89, which I already had a copy of this book, and I just took mine with me. Now it has since been put in a hardbound edition. And what is interesting about this book is the dedication that it's in the front. I'm assuming that it's still the dedication in the hardbound. I don't have a copy of that one, but it is dedicated to the memory of Brother Bernard's. It would have been his cousin, Tom Mitchell. And Brother Tom Mitchell come through our church numerous times. He was on the Alabama District Youth Committee and was an evangelist that Brother Patterson had through here a number of times whenever I was still middle school, high school. And he got shot in a terrible hunting accident sometime, I want to think maybe late 70s or so, but they dedicated this book to him. This book was written by Brother Bernard and his mother, and it's my understanding that a lot of these notes were the notes that Brother Bernard used whenever he taught the classes at JCM. And and again, we use this book as a textbook. My first semester at Texas Bible College, I still have those notes in that class. In fact, they're sitting right down there on a bookshelf, and it was in our doctrine class that Brother Enzi used to go through. He taught this portion of this class. So the chapters, and again, I'm sure that most of you, if you're Pentecostal, United Pentecostal, that you have had this book before, but it deals with a number of very good areas. And let's see if I can call them off here. Holiness and Introduction, the Christian life, Christian attitudes, the tongue, the eye, scriptural adornment and apparel, Bible truths concerning hair, the temple of God, sexual relationships, abstain from bloodshed, honesty and integrity, authority and organization in the church, fellowship and alliances, worship, emotions and music, some areas of worldliness today, practical hints for holy living. Now, I've lived long enough now to realize that some of these principles that are taught in this book, that if we're honest with ourselves, that we as a movement are getting away from some of these things. I think that's very sad. that we have allowed some of that to happen. Some of that is the encroachment of our society. And then other parts, I think there's just a hesitation on the part of pastors to teach. But trust me, there is a strong connection in the Spirit and the quality of the Spirit that you feel in apostolic churches that have a strong adherence to holiness. And then the second book is another book that was written. This one was written by Brother Bernard, and it is called Practical Holiness, A Second Look, and it's dedicated to Brother and Sister Kraft, longtime pastors of the church there in Jackson, Mississippi. The titles of this book are the chapter titles: The Christian in Sin, General Holiness Principles, The Dangers of Legalism, Christian Liberty, Practical Holiness in Church History, Television and Movies, Scriptural Teaching on Adornment and Dress, and Historical Teaching on Adornment and Dress. I find this very good as well, because what Brother Bernard did was he went back and looked through some of the early church fathers. If you have a copy of that set of books, you can trace them down, and that's what I have done. I've got a copy. My parents bought me a set of the early church fathers a number of years ago, and so what I've done, not only with this book, but I've also done it with the Oneness of God, and even some of the Trinitarian controversy in the 4th century that Brother Bernard wrote. I have taken those books and tracked down the footnotes, and I've highlighted those, and even made some notes in the margins of those books to just try to help me, because again, some of the accusations toward holiness is they want to say that, this is something new, this is something that has been, a relatively new development around the church. It started with the holiness movement, is what they want to say. But when you really start looking back in, as somebody that is disciplined and you really want to know, you can go back and you can look through the early church fathers and find out that some of the things that we strive to practice, even in this day, was practiced by the early church and even very early on, 1st century, 2nd century, there was an adherence to holiness in that manner. So that's what I have appreciated about this book and the footnotes in it. I would also tell you, I have a friend of mine that he told me that whenever he was probably, I guess, in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, may have been even earlier than that. But he was having some challenges with holiness in his own life and really looking to it. And what he did was he purchased this book and he just sat down. He was an evangelist at the time. And of course, during the daytime, he had a lot of time, just for study and prayer. And he took this book, The Practical Holiness, A Second Look, and worked through this book. And he said that he looks back, and he's probably in his mid-40s now. He said he looks back to that time where that he spent with Brother Bernard's book, and he said it really shaped and helped a number of his thoughts and ideas about what holiness was all about. Another book that I want to mention to you, and again, this is a book that is a little dated as well. I'm assuming that it is still in print. It was initially printed 1987, and then the second printing was in 87, and then the third printing was in 1990. This book is written by Brother David Gray, and Brother Gray, longtime elder, since passed away. He's been passed away for a number of years now, but Brother Gray would come to TBC, and he taught some classes there every year that I was there. And just a godly man, very just a good demeanor about him. And in this book, Brother Gray spent quite a bit of time talking about doctrinal points, speaking on the matters of holiness. And even though the book itself is still a little dated, they came from questions that people asked, I'm assuming, from the congregation there in San Diego. And what he did was he sat down and he did his best to give them a scriptural answer for the questions that they were asking. And so again, this has been just a very good resource that I've used over the years. Another book is really, I don't know if you would call it, would fall in the category of holiness, but it's just a good reference work as well. And this book is called The Best of E.L. Holly. Brother Holly was a longtime district superintendent of the great District of Texas, and he was a very ardent believer in apostolic doctrine and also the lifestyle of holiness. And so there's a couple of chapters in here that work with Christian living, doctrine, and holiness. I would say there's probably right at 75 or 80 pages that deals with that. Now, what these are is a number of these were articles that was published in the Apostolic Sentinel, which at the time was the district newspaper for the Texas district. And what Brother Enzi did was went back and edited and compiled these to go into this book. And so there's a number of things, and you can purchase this book from Advanced Ministries, and you just Google them and you can find their address. And I do know that book is still in print. Here is another book that I don't know you would say it would fall into the matter of holiness, but it deals with some hot button issues that even though this book was written, it's A Hill to Die On, initially was published in 2009. Brother Enzi deals with some things in this book that this book would be a worthy addition to your library. And so again, I would just encourage you to purchase this book and add it to you. He talks about truth in an age of deception, A Hill to Die On, unity in an age of division, the church in an age of spirituality. And he deals with some of these things that is facing the American or Western church, if you want to call it that. Here is a book, two books actually, that I received from a great pastor in Pittsburgh, Brother Tony Mancino. Pastors up there, Brother Mancino and I struck up a friendship, and he started reading my blog and some of the book reviews that I had, and so he has sent me more than 400 books for my personal library, and I probably at some point will do a library tour of my library. I've got close to 6,000 books, and obviously all of them are not religious. One of my vices is fiction. I do enjoy reading fictional books, but I may do a walkthrough of my personal library. But Brother Mancino has blessed me with some very, very good books, and some of these books that were written by apostolic authors that I had never even heard of. And he started sending these books to me. This book is the first volume, and it's written by Brother David Houston, and he pastors in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. In fact, back in the fall of this year, Brother Houston came down and he did a holiness seminar in our church. He started on Thursday night, and I said, you got an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half for you to teach. And he worked through this book, and we've got some other books. I didn't think of that, slipped my mind about the smaller book that he had, because I've kind of gotten keyed into these larger ones. But he came and taught. I would highly recommend, if you're a pastor, to just ask him to come to your church. And he taught Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, Sunday night. And every bit of it was geared toward holiness. And these books is How to Teach Holiness. And the way this book developed was he was on a missions trip in South Africa, he and Brother Grossbach. And he was teaching there in South Africa, and I think he was like at 14 churches over about a 10-day period or so, and he really was a pretty grueling trip. But he used those notes, and then he came and wrote these books. And so he's got volume 1, How to Teach Holiness from the Inside Out, and then he's got How to Teach Holiness, the Case for Holy Living. And Brother Houston's publication is Rosh Penina publications, and I'll try to remember to put the link to that up under this video, so if you want to look at it, you can go into that. But I highly recommend his books. Also, the other book that he has is Jesus Bought a House, A Believer's Guide to the Principles of Holiness. So all three of these books, he's even written some other books. A book called The Sons of the Oil is a very good book, and he goes into a number of issues that is facing the modern apostolic church. Issues such as modesty, adornment. He deals with the hot topic of hair, both male, female, and we're living in a day now where that you can begin to see the onslaught and the attack on the transgender that's taking place. And so we really live in a generation where that these topics and subjects need to be taught on a regular basis. And so Brother Houston's got some very good resources to deal with that. There's two other resources that I want to mention to you, and I don't have either one of them. And one of the reasons is because somebody who I will let them remain nameless, has hijacked my copy of a book that Brother Larry Booker wrote a number of years ago, and the title of that book was called What a Difference a Line Can Make. And Brother Booker did an excellent job explaining some of the matters of holiness that we certainly need to deal with. And just today, I have been converting cassette tapes, old cassette tapes, into MP3. And Brother Charles Grisham was teaching at the Texas District Camp meeting back in the mid-90s. And Brother Grisham made a statement. And the statement that he made was this, was if we are going to have pure mind or pure thoughts, then we have to have pure minds. And one of the things that is really being attacked is a holiness-minded person and the purity of mind. And so I would recommend Brother Larry Booker's book to you to purchase, and I think you can buy that from their store. I think their church is the Inland Lighthouse. I'll try to track that down as well. And then there's one other resource that I actually have a copy of, and it's downstairs in the one of the bookshelves down there. But that is Brother Crawford Coon's book. Brother Coon has recently passed away, I think, within the last year or so. But Brother Coon wrote a book called Berean Bible Basics, and it was a very, very good resource. And it's the copies I've got are two notebooks that are 3-ring binders. And again, Brother Patterson taught through those notebooks whenever I was still really before I was preaching, was still just a young man in our church. And Brother Coon really did a very good job with those books. So these are just some resources that I would commend to you from the matter of just holiness resources from an apostolic standpoint. And so again, I appreciate you staying with me for this video. Hopefully these have been of some use to you. And until next time, the Lord bless you, and thank you for watching.